Hello, Keith Rucker here at VintageMachinery.org. Hey guys, we're going to do a little odds and ends video for you this week. I've got some viewer mail over here starting to stack up. We were at the Barzy Bash last week. I want to give a little update on that. I've got some shop updates that I want to cover with you guys. I got some new projects we're getting ready to work on, done a little bit of rearranging in the shop and a few little things there I want to just share with you. And anyway, let's get in here. We'll start with some viewer mail and then go into some items we picked up at the Barzy Bash. So first item here, we got us a book that was sent in. This is from Carlos Gutierrez, and Carlos said he found this at an old church bookstore up in Duluth, Minnesota. Thought of me, picked it up, sent it to me, and what this is a catalog from the New York Air Brake Company. So this is railroad-related stuff, and dated 1913, and this is really kind of cool. So it's basically just a catalog of all their different apparatus and air brake related stuff that would go on steam locomotives back in the day. Really, really cool. And I've got a friend of mine that actually specializes in working on brake systems on locomotives, more modern diesel stuff, but he does old steam stuff as well. And I shared this with him. He got pretty excited. He said, that's really cool. So anyway, I'm pretty excited to have this, and who knows, we might use this information. We got nice little diagrams of pretty much all their stuff that they had back in those days, parts list, etc. So could very well come in handy. So anyway, Carlos, thank you for sending that along. By the way, Carlos goes by Fix It Chuck over on YouTube.com. So if you want to check out his YouTube channel, Fix It Chuck, be how you get there. So anyway, thank you, Carlos, for sending that along. So next here we got a couple of items that were sent in, a couple of books sent in by Rick Siegfried, and Rick has actually sent me some stuff before. He has sent me actually a nice little wooden toolbox, machinist box with a few tools in it that belonged to his great uncle a couple of years ago that I actually use over here. It's in the shop, and we use it all the time. But anyway, he had a couple of books he wanted to share with me. He said that these belong to his dad, who used them to earn his mechanical engineering degree in the Navy ROTC program many years ago. And a couple of things here. Number one, manufacturing processes. Just basically a book on all kinds of exactly what it says, manufacturing processes. This is from I think it said 47 was the date on it. I saw up here in the front of it, 1947. So anyway, cool little book. This is one I don't think I've seen before, so I'm going to be interested to look at it here. There's some cool old machines in here, etc. Big gray planer. That's cool. I have to look at that. Also, this book here, which is the American Machinist Handbook. So I'm sure many of you guys are probably familiar with the Machinery's Handbook. This is kind of a similar type book, similar type information, just a different version of that was out there. And it's got all kinds of information in here that you use in a machine shop. So, and I use my Machinery's Handbook and this book quite a bit. I've actually got another copy of this, but this will be good. I like to have a copy in my office because when I'm doing research and stuff on the computer, I like to have these as references. So I thought it was kind of interesting that there is in the back of this book a wartime data supplement. He mentioned that to me. And it's got some emergency metals in here that were used during World War II. There's information here on machining gun barrels, all kinds of stuff that was specific to World War II. And so I imagine that this one here, 1945, so right at the end of World War II. So anyway, that's kind of cool to have that version of that as well. So anyway, Rick, thanks very much for sending those along, and we will add those to the library. Next item here, this comes from Tom Kitchens. Tom has sent me stuff before and actually been to my shop a time or two. Came and helped on one of my work days we had a while back. But Tom lives down in the Jacksonville, Florida area. He goes by Sand Rammer on YouTube. And Tom is retired from the Navy. He was actually a molder in the Navy, which is worked in a foundry unit that basically did foundry work for repair work on ships and all kinds of stuff. And he basically molded patterns for foundry work, and he still does some foundry work in his garage down at home. He's got some really good videos. If you're interested in foundry work and really want to get down in the weeds, really get down into the details, he's got some really good videos up on his website or on YouTube about that. So he sent this along, and if you ask what this is what he calls a wrapping tool. And when you're doing foundry work or molding work and you're doing your patterns, you got to get the pattern out of the sand, and you do that by, you need to wrap it to kind of loosen it. So this is something you can kind of tap it in there with. These forks you can use to actually hook and lift the patterns out of the sand. This is one that he made, and this is like the one he used to use in the Navy, I believe. But anyway, Tom sent that along, and also sent along a little Navy Molders sticker for me to put on my sticker board as well. So anyway, Tom, again, thank you very much. You've been a great supporter of my shop here over the years, and I've enjoyed getting to know you through email and also through a couple of visits. So anyway, thanks a lot, Tom. So with this little wrapping tool that Tom sent along to me, it kind of gives me a segue into something I wanted to mention, because when I was out at the Barzy Bash this past week, I actually got asked this question by multiple people, and since so many people were asking me about it, I'm sure many other guys probably have the same question, and that is regarding my foundry setup, my foundry furnace that I worked on several years ago. And I want to know, hey, whatever happened to that? Why don't you use it? Really want to see more of that kind of work. Well, guys, my plan is that at some point in time, I'm going to get that stuff back out and get going with it. Honestly, what happened there is I started on that foundry project, then I started building the shop. And when I started building the shop kind of took precedence, and it has been taking precedence over the last couple of years. My plan is that probably, I'm hoping next year, get some money saved up. I'm going to pour a slab down the north side of this shop out here on the long side, on the back, and put a lean-to shelter on there. And part of that area I'm going to be designating to some outdoor workspace where I'm going to set up my foundry's work. So I'll have a place where I can easily take my furnace in and out. I'll probably store it outside under the shelter, but have a way that I can take it out from under the shelter and be able to fire it up. And then when it cools down or whatever, I can bring it back up in and out of the weather and so forth. Right now, my foundry stuff is up in a storage building. And quite honestly, it takes me the better part of a day just to get it all out where I can use it. And then it takes me the better part of a day to kind of get it all put back up, because it's just not very usable where it's at right now. So I do have plans for that. Hopefully, sometime in the near future, when the funds become available, I'm going to be able to make that addition to the shop. I also plan on, while I'm working out there, I've got a blacksmith shop. I've had it since I was a teenager. It's also kind of in storage right now, and I want to get my blacksmith shop set back up. I haven't done any blacksmithing work in quite some time, except out at the museum. I'll sometimes work in the blacksmith shop out there, but I'm really kind of anxious to be able to get my blacksmith set up going again as well. So anyway, that's kind of long-term plans, and I know some people have had questions on that, so now's a good time to answer that. And speaking of the Barzy Bash, we got some cool stuff that I picked up there. I'll just say this. As always, I really enjoy going out to the bash. I know I got to see a lot of my viewers out there, and for me, that was the highlight of the whole trip, is just being able to visit with folks. So I flew out on Thursday last week, got in that afternoon, was able to hang out with some of the YouTube guys and help Stan kind of get set up for things on Thursday afternoon. On Friday, I got to go on a really cool tour of the Jet Propulsion Labs out there in California, where NASA basically does all these probes and stuff going up into space. And we got to go in and have a tour of their machine shop. So they have inside machine shop where they do all kinds of really cool stuff. And we got to go in and see that. And that was really cool. One of the guys that works in the shops there is one of the YouTube viewers. Mike Wiggins actually set it up, and he took basically the better part of the day. It was his day off on that Friday, but he came out and took us all on a tour and took us through there, and we got to see everything in the Jet Propulsion Labs. Unfortunately, we weren't allowed to take pictures or videos or anything, so I can't really share any of that stuff with you guys as far as being able to see it, but I can promise it was really cool. And probably for me, the highlight of the trip was I got to stand probably about 30 yards from the Mars rover, the actual Mars rover that's going to be blasted off into space next year and be roving around on Mars. We got to go into a viewing area where they were assembling everything to be blasted off into space. It was a clean room, but they had a viewing area, and we were literally that close to it. So that was really pretty cool as well. During the bash, got to meet a lot of folks, and one of the things that we always do is trade channel stickers, and picked up some new channel stickers while I was out there. So these were some of the ones, and these will be going up on my sticker board, which is just about full, but we'll make room for a few more on there. I'm gonna probably have to get another one here before long. But anyway, always good to see folks and get to visit with folks. And again, for me, the highlight is to get to visit with all the viewers that I ran into out there. Also picked up a few things at the swap meet, so let me show you those. So first off, I found a 3J collet. I've got a 3J collet chuck that came with my Revette lathe, and while I got a full set of round collets, I don't have any hexes, and there was a guy that had this 1 3/4 hex, so picked that up. So I also picked up a couple of boring bars. These came from Solid Rock Machine Shop. So they've done help me on the project before making a boring bar. But these right here actually fit into a boring head that goes on a milling machine or what have you. There's 2 different sizes here. There's a 3/8 and a 1/2 inch. So anyway, that'll be nice to have to be able to use those. These are really, really nice boring bars. And go check out Steve Barton over at Solid Rock Machine Shop. He's got some really cool stuff. He sells these, but he does some really, really nice work too. He has some of his other items that he makes out there for sale as well. Picked up an L0 back plate. Again, my Revette lathe has an L0 spindle on it, and a while back when I put that chuck on there, I actually had to get a back plate, and I found one. It wasn't the super highest quality one in the world. This one here is actually one made by Buck, and it had been attached to a chuck at some point in time, but they had taken it off. But anyway, I can refit this and probably use it on another project down the road. So anyway, I picked that up. I thought that was a nice little addition, nice to have. Tom Zeckleman over at the Inspiration Metalworks makes these little magnets that you can use in the shop, and you see they're sticking to everything. But he actually gave me a couple of these, so anyway, I'm gonna use those. You can use them for all kinds of stuff, hanging plans up to sticking into a machine or whatever. They come in handy, so real strong magnets, as you can see. Dennis Nolan, who works with Niagara Seco, was out there, and I had actually contacted him. I had a Seco parting tool to go with my lathe. Actually, I got it from a couple of years ago, and I couldn't find any inserts for it. I was trying to figure out which inserts it took, and anyway, he said, hey, I'll bring you some. So anyway, he brought me a pack of inserts for that, and these fit my parting tool. So anyway, glad to have those, and now I know what the part number is so that I can figure out which ones I need to order next time I need some. And also, Randy Richards in the shop, YouTube fella out there. Always good to see Randy. He makes these scribes, have carbide tips. I actually have another one from him that I use all the time, a little bit different style. But anyway, this will be a nice little addition as well. And this is something that he makes. He's got his Randy Richards in the shop inscribed on there as well. So pretty cool. Then over in the swap meet, I picked up a nice little set of Starrett dial calipers. I probably got 3 or 4 sets of these, but it's always nice to have some extra ones laying around. These here, he had a pretty good price on them. It comes with the package, but honestly, what really intrigued me was it has this little piece here. If you've never seen this, it clamps on the back here, and you can use it for doing depth measurements a little bit better. So now you can lay that across something and use the rod down here for depth measurements. And believe it or not, I don't have one of those, or didn't have one of those. I do now. So anyway, nice to pick up this nice little set. So there's a little summary of the Summer Bash, and I want to give a personal thank you to Stan Zinkowski, who hosts this out there at his place every year. Stan, I don't know how in the world you managed to pull this thing off, but you do. And I think this is the fourth one that I've been out to, and I have enjoyed every one of them. This one was great as well, and hoping to make it back out there again next year. It's kind of becoming a tradition. So Stan, thank you for hosting that. And if I have any regret, it's that I don't get enough time really to hang out with people. It's just a wild day. It is just nonstop meeting and talking to a lot of my viewers, which is great. But at the same time, it's just a crazy day. I love it. Don't get me wrong. I'm exhausted at the end of the day. But anyway, I'm hoping to make it back out there again in the future. And hopefully next year, some of you guys, if you didn't get a chance to make it to the Bardsey Bash, you can make it out there. So let's look at a few other things here. So a couple of weeks ago, my buddy Jeff Clow, a guy that I've been knowing for many years, had a little shop party up at his place in Atlanta. And Jeff actually recently purchased a large lot of tooling from Lockheed in Atlanta from an auction. And he had a bunch of stuff he was selling. So I picked up several things up there. But this is something that I just thought was really cool that I want to share with you guys. I had never seen this before. So this is from Taper Micrometer Corporation. And what this is a special micrometer that is made for measuring tapers. So let me show you this. This is really cool. So if you look at this, it's kind of a funky looking micrometer, but it's not really for measuring a particular distance. It's for measuring a taper or measuring an angle. So it has a little piece on the bottom that you can loosen up and slide up and down. They made these in a couple different sizes. This is a larger one. They also made a smaller one for smaller tapers. This is about as narrow as this one gets. But it's really cool because you got a piece down here on the bottom that's got 2 points, and then you got this up here that's got 2 points on it. But this is like a sine bar. It's got a sine bar built into it, and what you're measuring up here is the angle, or measuring the distance of the angle. So it's kind of like with a sine bar, you use gauge blocks. This has got a 10,000th reading micrometer head on there, so you can measure, the difference in the taper. So you get it where it's touching on all 4 points, and you just move this in and out to actually get that taper measurement. So I'm going to show you how it's used. I got a taper over here we're going to measure real quick. So what I've got in my vise is a number 5 Morse taper sleeve. So this is a Morse taper. It's an angle. It's got a taper on here. And what you do is you come in here with this, and you basically get it where it's touching back here in the back. You move it up and down. I got this point here touching. And now I come in with my micrometer head, and we read that right there. I'm going to pull it out, and after we read that, I'm going to come in here, and you read it just like anything else. So it's on 52, and looks like it's on 6/10 there, right about 6/10. So 0.0526 is what the micrometer is reading. Now, I found this on the internet, but this is a little cheat sheet. This is one that when you got this, it came with this. Mine didn't have it, but I was able to find it where someone had done it up on the internet, had a picture of it, so or they had recreated it, I guess. But I'm going to look in here, Morse taper shank. It gives you a number 5 Morse taper. It tells you what the taper per foot is, a taper per inch, etc. But most importantly, it tells you what the micrometer reading should be. And we got 0.05258. So I was reading 0.526, so right there at it. And if you take that, this is going out to one place farther than I can measure, and you take that 8 rounded up to a 6. So it's right on the money. That taper is reading exactly what it needs to for a number 5 taper. Now, if you wanted to do the math, you could do it just like a sine plate or whatever, and you could actually calculate an angle. It'll give you here directions for doing that, just exactly that. If you want to figure up an angle or figure up a taper, this is really made more for measuring tapers. Tapers are measured like in inches per foot or something like that. but it could be used for measuring angles as well. So anyway, that's a really cool, neat little tool. I had never seen one. In fact, when I saw it, I was kind of able to figure out what it was, but I had never seen one before. Got on the internet. Actually, I posted something on Instagram, and some guys led me to some posts on the internet about them. On Practical Machinist, I was able to dig up this information and some other stuff. So anyway, really cool tool. I'd kind of like to have the smaller version of this. This one will only, that's as wide as you can do. So really my number 5 Morse taper is the smallest one. So my other ones is too small for this particular one. So maybe one day I'll round up the smaller version to go with it and have a set. But anyway, I can see where I might use this down the road. This would be a cool tool to have. Thought I'd share that. Never seen one before. Taper Micrometer Corporation. So a little shop improvement here. Picked up a new toy for the shop, and this was actually a purchase that I made recently. Picked up this gantry crane. Now, I had mentioned a while back that I was going to build one, and that was kind of originally my plan. But honestly, guys, just a couple of things going on. Number one, I'm really needing one for a project I got coming up, and I just haven't had the time to get one built. Number two, I went out and started pricing the steel to make one. And then I started pricing how much I could just buy one for. And while, yeah, I could have saved a little bit of money building it myself, honestly, I wasn't going to be saving that much money, particularly when you factored in the amount of time it was going to take for me to do it. I picked this one up. This one is made by, was it Vestal, I think? Yeah, this one is made by Vestal. And I picked it up actually on Amazon. Of all places. I got the price in these things, and Amazon had the best price, and because I'm an Amazon Prime member, they even gave me free shipping, believe it or not. So anyway, I'm real happy with this. This is a 3-ton model, or 6,000 pound capacity is what it's capable of lifting, and it's got an 11-foot wide span. I forget how high it'll go, but it'll go up more than high enough from my shop. I've got it on the 3rd pin up here, and you can see it goes up all the way here. I think it goes up about 20 feet. I don't know that I'd really want to use it up that high, but it can get on up there if we need to. So right now, this is a good height. I can pretty much move it all the way up against the walls in here without hitting the ceiling. But in the middle section, I can go up higher if I need to have some extra capacity in there. I'll probably leave it at this height most of the time. Now, I've got 2 different hoists on here right now, and I really don't plan on using 2 hoists with it. What I've got here is this one is a 3-ton hoist, or 6,000 pound hoist over here, and that's pretty much what the whole gantry is rated for. But I really don't like using this one for just everyday stuff because it is really slow. You have to really pull that chain a lot to get it to come up. Also, another little shop improvement that I recently did has with my welding table here. So my welding table has been parked right here pretty much since I built the shop. And one of the problems I've had with this is this table is really, really heavy. And because of that, it's hard to move around. And I had a shelf that was about at this height right in here that was built in it when I got it. And I came in here and basically cut that shelf completely out. And I built a new shelf down on the bottom. I haven't got it covered yet, but that will be a shelf down there that I can put stuff on. It does a couple of things for me. Number one, it gives me some more capacity and height and stuff that I can store up underneath the table. I'm probably going to build some racks and some things in here to do some better storage down the road. I got some ideas. I need to get it kind of all drawn out and kind of done, but that's my plan. But really, the main reason that I wanted to get that shelf down lower is that now I can come in here with my pallet jack and come right up underneath this table, pick it up, and I can just move it around the shop anywhere I want to go. I'm really trying hard to get everything in here, as much in here as possible, that I can just come in with a pallet jack and pick things up and move it. So my workbenches, my surface plate, some of my machinery I've got on where I can just pull stuff right up underneath it, and it really makes life easy. And I was needing to do some rearranging in the shop for my next project I'm about to tell you about. So this was an important step in being able to do that because I had to move this table. So this is something I've been planning for a while, and I finally got around to getting it done. So I'm real excited about that. again, going to address some questions because, again, I posted some pictures on Instagram. And by the way, guys, if you have Instagram and you want to follow me, Vintage Machinery is my handle on Instagram, and you can sign up there. I post a lot of pictures of stuff that I'm working on in the shop. A lot of stuff that doesn't ever make it to video will get posted up on Instagram. So if you want to follow along with the stuff I'm doing and kind of see things before the videos come out, you can go on Instagram and follow me. Facebook too, Vintage Machinery there. Everything I post on Instagram gets posted to my Facebook page under Vintage Machinery as well. So one question that I did get, though, had to do with these little plates right here and why I didn't take those out. So a little bit of history. I picked this welding table up right after I built the shop. I picked up several pieces of machinery from an estate over in Alabama. This welding table was one of the items that I picked up, and it had been repurposed. At one time, I think it was like holding some type of machinery or equipment in a factory or something like that. There's all kinds of holes in here. There's all kinds of screw plates. So they had something mounted on this table, and those were the feet. That's how tall it was. And the owner previous to me had welded some extensions onto the bottom of those to get it up at a height that you could use it for a welding table. So these little bosses were on there when I got it. And honestly, guys, to take them out, I would have to cut the legs, weld them back together. It's just more work than I want to do. So is it ideal? No. But does it look great? No. But guess what? It really doesn't affect the functionality of it, so I'm living with it. So anyway, I have some questions on that, so that's the reason for that. Which brings me to the metal planer. This is going to be my next project in the shop. We're going to actually start a project restoring this antique metal planer. This is a machine that I've had in the shop now for several years. It's just kind of been sitting back there in the way. It has not been functional. If you're not familiar with a metal planer, if you are familiar with a metal shaper, the little tool that goes back and forth has a single point cutter on it that does it. This is a cousin to the shaper, or maybe it's the big brother to a shaper. So with a shaper, you have that ram that goes back and forth that pushes that single point tool to cut a flat surface. With this, that single point tool mounts here. This head adjusts left and right and up and down. But instead of the cutter going back and forth, you put your work on this table. This table is 8 foot long, and the table actually moves back and forth. So it goes back and forth, and it moves that cutter up underneath it. So it works exactly like a metal shaper does, but it does it instead of moving the tool across the metal, you move the work under the tool. So this is a really cool machine. This one was made by New Haven Manufacturing, probably in the late 1800s. I'm guessing between 1880 and 1900 is about when this one was made, based on some catalogs and some research and stuff that I've done. And we're about to start a project. We're going to take this thing completely apart. I really don't know what all is going to be involved in rebuilding it. I know a couple little things that need to be done that are, in the grand scheme of things, fairly minor. I'm hoping we don't run anything super crazy difficult, but anyway, once we get it apart, we'll have a better idea. This is the reason why I picked up the gantry crane, and this is also the reason why I had to move my welding table. I had to move the welding table to get the planer out here where I could work on it, and we've got the gantry crane in the shop now so that I can actually manhandle the parts on this thing, take it apart. There's some really heavy pieces on this, and it was not something that I could do without some lifting ability in the shop. So that's kind of the reason for those two things that we've just done previously. And my plan is I actually got a couple of guys, Mike Wiggins over at the Backyard Machine Shop and Lance Baltzy down in Florida. They're going to be coming in here in a couple of days, and they're going to be helping me. We're going to spend the day, the three of us are going to work. We're going to take this machine apart, do some inspection on it, kind of come up with a game plan on restoring it. And I appreciate them coming up and giving me some help with the heavy lifting. And it's really at least a two-person job, so we should be in good shape. So we'll be doing some videos on that down the road coming up very shortly, and hopefully be able to get this machine back up and running soon, so that we'll have another tool to be able to use in the shop for all kinds of really cool projects. Well, there you go. That's going to be a wrap of this episode of Odds and Ends. Hope you enjoyed watching that and giving you a little sneak peek of some projects to come. I'm really excited about being able to get started on this metal planer. Had a great time at the Summer Bash. Again, great to see everybody who was out there. And with that, we'll be signing off. As always, thanks for watching. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Comments are always appreciated, and we will catch you on the next video.